Assalamu alaikum, everybody. This is Imran from ACC, and we have a very beneficial interview and webinar today, Remaining Calm, a practical guide for students during the time of coronavirus. And my beloved and honorable guest is Brother Wadud Hassan, co-founder, along with his wife, of Define360. Wadud has completed his master's in education from Vanderbilt in leadership and organizational performance. He has also co-led the launch of 3 independent K-12 schools in Dallas before completing his principles and leadership training and certificate at Harvard. He's also gotten some additional training at the Neuroscience Academy and the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, which was born in Google. Brother Wadud, how you doing?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having me. Alhamdulillah, doing well.
Alhamdulillah. So I think there's a lot going on right now, and I know one of your standard techniques is a arrival technique. So before we go into the meat and potatoes of this presentation, can you basically can we arrive to this interview properly?
Right. Bismillah, So I normally say that for fully arriving in the present moment, and a Muslim is supposed to be fully present. Our Prophet ﷺ, when he was in his ibadah, he was fully there with khushu, and then when he was also with people, he was fully present with them. So this practice of full arrival and presence in the current moment, it takes 3 steps. So the first step is, as you breathe, just breathing in and breathe out. So what I'll do is I'll first walk you through the steps, and then we can do it together. So the first step is just breathing in, maybe taking a long breath in and a long breath out. So perhaps that's just calming yourself a little bit. And then you just go into your regular breath, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. And if it helps you, for kids especially, we tell them to even touch a place in their body where they feel the breath. So perhaps they feel the breath at the nostrils or on their chest or on their abs. Wherever they feel the breath, wherever you feel the breath, maybe perhaps even anchoring yourself with your hand and just kind of staying with the breath. So the breath sits between the physiological and psychological. So by controlling and regulating our breath, we are able to regulate our attention in our mind. And so we first focus on the breath. That's why you hear everybody talking about just take a deep breath, right? And what does that do? That induces this calming effect. And for kids, and even for adults, when we're stressed or we are overwhelmed with a lot of different thoughts, sometimes we're not doing the full breath. So the full belly breath, that really helps calm ourselves, and it adds fuel and oxygen to the cells, so it helps us. We'll talk a little more about that later. So the first step of arrival practice is we just focus on the breath for a few seconds, gather our kind and gentle attention on our breath. If our mind wanders, we bring it back to the breath. And the second step is that you just kind of relax your body, just relax your muscles. A lot of times we carry our emotions in our body. So when we are, anxious or having anxious thoughts or worrying about things, we start having those emotions show up in our body. So we can feel them in our chest, in our muscles, in our back, in our hands. So just kind of letting go of all those emotions and kind of relaxing and relaxing those muscles, relaxing your body. So arriving here with your body as well. And then the third step is asking what is important now. And to me, as a Muslim, innamal a'malu binniyah, every action depends on the intention. So making intention that, what is my intention for now? Like, how can I be mindfully here with my spouse, my children? Or how can I fully mindfully arrive here with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So what is important now, making that intention. So the 3 steps again is just taking a few breaths, focusing your attention on the breath. And the second step is relaxing your body. And the third step is asking, how can I fully arrive here right now? What's my intention here now? What's really important now? And letting go of everything else and focusing on that present moment. So with that, let's do that real fast as we arrive with each other. Bismillah, as-salatu salam wa rasulullah. First step, your breath, breathing in and out. The second step, relaxing your body. And the third step, asking what's important now? What do I need to focus on now? How can I be present and mindful at this moment? What's my intention now? All right. So those are the 3 steps for full arrival.
Thank you so much. That was very helpful and very beneficial.
Yeah, I hope, that is beneficial. I went into a little bit of explanation, so hopefully people can practice that as they're trying to arrive. Like these days, we are either worried about, things from, usually our minds ruminate in the past or the future, right? So these days there's a lot of different worries, and worries are not necessarily, they're usually not about the present moment, right? They're always about what might happen next, later, this, that, or the other. So instead of living in those worries or in the future, if we can just kind of breathe and just take the one moment at a time and just be in that moment and just be thankful for that moment, and even bring a sense of gratitude for that moment. I know I need it, and I have been trying to practice it, even though I have been trained in mindfulness, but I know that it is something that even first few days, or even there are times that I'm struggling to kind of let go, right? And so inshallah, I hope that I am doing this practice today for, first and foremost, for my own benefit, and then also to share with others, inshallah, how some tools we can use together,
inshallah. Thank you. So let's focus a little bit on the worry side of it. So what's actually going on in the mind when people are stressed? And right now we're consumed by a lot of news, a lot of negative news, a lot of worry, a lot of grief. People are losing their jobs. Students are being kicked out of their dorms. They're worried about whether the semester is going to be suspended, if they're going to be able to finish and graduate on time. So what goes on in the brain when all this stress is in it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So from my limited training, what I can say from my experience and understanding of the brain and the way that we teach mindfulness is that, whenever we have strong negative emotions, like fear, anxiety, this type of emotions, that it activates the emotional region of the brain. So, if this is your brain, and so like this is like the forehead, and from the back, below the brain, the lower region of the brain is where the emotional center of the brain is. And the emotional center of the brain, which is which houses the amygdala. And the amygdala is called the siren or the alarm of the brain. And during any type of negative emotions, the amygdala activates. And whenever it activates to a point where you feel that there is a threat, like the rustling of the bushes or a wild animal chasing us, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this for our survival. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this mechanism in our brain for our survival. So for the cavemen, it was very, very useful because they had to survive. They had to protect themselves. But, in the modern context of human life, we don't necessarily have to have that type of activation continuously, because alhamdulillah, we live in a more protected and advanced world. So, however, that human brain and the mechanism works in such a way that when there is a fear that activates the amygdala, what happens is that you get into a fight, flight, or freeze response. That either you are gonna just freeze, you don't know what to do, or you just kind of run away, you just want to get away from that, or you just you try to fight it, right? And the adrenaline kicks in, and at times that's very useful when there is a real threat. But when these are just worries, these are just thoughts, and they're not really necessarily real, and these are just things that are just passing through and making that the amygdala flare up. What happens is that when the emotional part of the brain activates the rational part of the brain, which is a prefrontal cortex, which is located right behind our forehead, the part of the head, like we make sujood with, right? So right below that is the prefrontal cortex, which is the rational center of the brain. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us more emotionally intelligent. That's what makes us make higher order thinking, decision making, executive thinking. So when the rational part of the brain deactivates to an extent because the amygdala or the emotional part of the brain has activated so much, that's when we're not able to really think rationally. We're not able to think clearly, and we get all clouded. And then we say we have all these thoughts going on. I don't know what to think, right? So that's what happens. So the way that we need to make those relationships, one of the researchers at Stanford, Philip Godin, he has done some research around the bandwidth and the communication bandwidth between the emotional center of the brain and the rational center of the brain. How can you increase that bandwidth? How can you increase the connection? Because the rational part of the brain, whenever there is a threat, it sends a signal up to the rational part of the brain to help. But if it is too much, the activation of the emotional center of the brain is too much, then the rational part of the brain, deactivates to a point, right? So how do you activate the rational part of the brain? How do you send the help down? How do you help or down-regulate the emotions? So that's where mindfulness comes in. That modern neuroscience is showing that when you're just kind of breathing and relaxing yourself and letting go of those fears and just kind of letting go of those emotions on your body. How can you let go of things in your mind? People might say, oh, I can't really get rid of those things in my mind. And which is true to an extent, because you can't necessarily always control the thoughts that are going to pass through you. But what you can control is your body. And the researchers, there was a study in Finland that did a study on emotions, and they found that emotions, more than anywhere else, they show up in our physiological, in our body. So if we're able to kind of relax our muscles, relax our body, just kind of let go of those emotions, even kind of hold all the emotions in our hand, just let go. With the bodily movements, we're able to regulate our mind. And one of the things that is really critical of this is that the breath sits between the physiological and psychological. So the breath, by controlling that, you can relax the body and the mind, So that's why people just kind of like taking a deep breath in and deep breath out, taking a deep breath in and deep breath out. So what happens is, as you are regulating yourself, what happens is that the rational part of the brain starts, activating, and it starts realizing what your emotional center of the brain is telling you, and then it down regulates it and says, don't worry about it. It's okay. That's not real. It's just a thought that's passing through. And one of the things that Philip Godin's lab and also UCLA lab of Matthew Lieberman, they have done research on is what is called affect labeling, which is labeling the emotions that you're feeling. So just kind of label them and say, oh, I'm experiencing anger. I'm experiencing anxiety. I'm having an anxious thought. I'm having a stressful thought. Oh, it's normal because everybody else is also having these anxious thoughts. Everybody else is also having these fearful thoughts. And when you label them, when you label these emotions, what happens is that labeling is a rational action. So labeling activates the prefrontal cortex, and it starts down-regulating your emotions because, okay, I know what's happening to me, and it's not real, or it's just a thought passing through, and there is a name for this, and I can name it. I can label it. So labeling emotions, it calms you down. So they say even when the kids are throwing tantrums, the toddlers are throwing tantrums, teaching them the vocabulary of emotions and saying, can you say I'm experiencing anger? What emotion do you think you're feeling? As soon as they say that I'm experiencing anger, you'll see that the length of that tantrum will be reduced, because now their brain automatically starts thinking rationally. Until then, they don't know what they're doing, what emotion they're feeling. They're just like going, crazy, right? So labeling ourselves is really important. Like we're just in all these anxious thoughts. Oh my God, like what is going to happen? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm experiencing an anxious thought. I will let this thought pass through. And I don't believe in this thought. These are thoughts that everybody's having these days. I believe and expect the best from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's how you kind of rationalize and help yourself and use some of the tools you can use to understand fear or anxiety and then kind of calm those down.
Can you bring it home and give us some real life examples as a student yourself, as an educator, entrepreneur?
Yeah.
How do these feelings of anxiety manifest when we don't control them? So for example, like when you get into a fight with a loved one, you make a bad business decision. Can you give us some real life examples?
How do they affect us?
Yeah, how do they manifest in terms of when we don't control them? How do they manifest in the way we make decisions? And give us some examples of normal bad decisions people make when they're not able to control these feelings.
Right, right. Well, any of the difficult emotions, like when you are anxious, you're gonna make decisions that are not always rational, and that's for sure. Like you're talking about, for example, anger. When in a relationship, the spouse, they get into a fight, and these days, with all the different emotions going on, there could be more fights between friends or family, right? Even spouses, and realizing that what you're trying to say is coming from not coming from from your best self. Just kind of realizing that helps you think about, okay, what can I do? How can I notice what I'm feeling? So I would say that, yeah, there are a lot of different manifestations of people doing weird things, or people, like buying dozens of hand sanitizers at once, for example, or really fighting for how to get on. Like some students, they were really fighting to get back to their homes, from when they were thrown out of the dorms. I know my cousin was at MIT, and they told them that they have a week, and then all of a sudden an email came and said, no, you don't have the week, you have to leave by the weekend. And they put in, I think, $2 million to try to get all the students out, and they're all rushing and doing all kinds. So we were trying to just calm them down and say, just relax. What else do you need? We have another family member there. Do you need to stay somewhere? And then sometimes figuring out what's the safest option and how can I stay calm in this option. And sometimes what happens is that more real than the real threat is that the real feelings or a backlash of those difficult or the negative emotions show up in your body. Like you start feeling sick, you start feeling like, okay, I don't have the energy, or I can't think straight. So even without anything happening, you're unnecessarily making yourself feel bad or feel down. So it has physiological implication, psychological implication, and then it has effect on your relationships. So just calming down and just kind of holding somebody, like with their hand, and just kind of grounding ourselves. They say that sometimes if you feel like that, just ground yourself, just hold the chair and the fabric and feel that, and just kind of breathe and say, what is the most rational thing to do right now? And also this is why, talking to people is important, reaching out to family, friends, and just consulting a little bit. The concept of shura in our deen, like consulting, like, hey, I'm in this situation, what's the best way? And not just think through the fear center of your brain, but think through the rational center of your brain. That's why also istikhara is really important. When we make istikhara and asking Allah, you guide us, you teach us what's the best way to handle this right now. It's calming down, because salah, it calms us down. It brings our body into that movement. We're able to kind of relax in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're able to rest our head in front of Allah. So we have beautiful practices in our deen that already teaches us how to ground ourselves and how to ask for guidance and how to calm ourselves and ask, just release your anxiety through dua. Because dua is a practice of mindfulness. You're just really being in the moment, just releasing everything, giving all your anxiety to Allah, and only taking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in. One of the things that I tell people that, just when you breathe in and out for Muslims, you can just say Allah, like take a deep breath in with Allah, and then as you're breathing out, just as you say Allahu, just kind of like as if you're letting go of all your worries, anxieties, and giving to Allah, Allahu, and Allah, I give everything to you, take care of it. Like the dua of Ishaq alayhi salam when Yusuf was the dua of Yaqub alayhi salam when Yusuf alayhi salam was lost, like innama ashku bathi wa huzni ila Allah. Allah, all my anguish and my worry, I give it all to you. Like you take care of it, you help me, right? So kind of releasing it in whatever way, breathing, making dhikr, du'as, these are all ways to kind of releasing them.
So we mentioned some metaphysical means. We've mentioned some practical means. For our students, tie it together. How do we find that balance between like the metaphysical, the spiritual side, and then the practical side? So right now, according to what's going on due to COVID-19, we have to maybe get some extra food. We have to stay indoors. We have to stay physically away from people. But at the same time, those things do overwhelm us. So how do we connect that and combine that with the metaphysical side of trusting in the Creator and knowing that there is a master plan, there's a grand plan, and that we're just, we take the means, but we trust in the divine. So how do you combine those two sides?
Yeah, I'll just say that, from my training, what I can bring to this discussion is that, in multiple khutbahs I've done in this topic recently, right before all this lockdown started, um, was that, of course, talking about this, the psychological way of like how fear works, but also just reminding myself and calming myself first and foremost about that, hasbunallahu ni'mal wakil, and وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلَ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Whoever he relies on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is enough for them. Remembering, the lessons that we grew up with, Ibrahim alayhi salam, and these are real lessons. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was being thrown into the fire, and I was talking to my girls about what are some ways we can calm this fear, and we came up with 5 S's. Me and my 2 girls, they are 9-year-old, and we said the first S is strong faith. Can we have faith like Ibrahim, like in front of me this is fire and people can't even go close because they'll get burned. They can't even go close to throw him in the fire. It's such a huge fire. They're making a catapult to throw him into the fire, and while he's being thrown into the fire, even when angel comes down, he doesn't take help from the angel and he asks directly from Allah, hasbunallahu ni'mal wakil. Such like strong iman that Allah himself had to directly order the fire to be cool, and not even an angel intervention. So how can we have strong faith? Because if we have strong faith, Allah will be with us, number one. And within the strong faith, we talked about, how can we have the highest positive expectation from Allah? Allah deals with his servant according to their expectation. This is Hadith Qudsi, right? So we talked about strong faith, first S. The second S we talked about was supplication, that how can we pray to God and believe in our du'as, because our du'as are accepted as long as we believe in them, like according to our Prophet, supplication. The third thing we talked about was sadaqah, because charity removes difficulty, and good deeds is a means of protection against illness, so doing good deeds, if there's a way to be good to your family, kind to your family, serve your family. For those that are healthy, strong, they're able to go out, in and out of the grocery store, at least delivering to the elderly, like a lot of our communities are doing, mashallah. If you're not, at least donating a little bit of money if you are able to, or just creating a sadaqah jar at home with your kids or with your family and giving a little bit of sadaqah. Sadaqah drives away difficulty. So that was the third S. And the fourth S we talked about was sunnah. That is there any other sunnah we can follow to keep ourselves safe? So one of those things we talked about was prophetic medicine, like we can have honey and black seed and other things like that that strengthens our immunity. Sleep properly and walk and things like that, keep our body strong according to the prophetic sunnah. And the fifth S was safety. Take all the precaution that everybody's advising you to do. But at this point, we already know the precautions. So keeping on hearing the same thing over and over again and over tuning into the news, I don't think it helps anybody anymore. So once we know the safety protocols, don't go into a decision fatigue, because our mind is like, I'm going to do this or that, I'm going to touch this or not, I'm going to, so you're just all day you're thinking about that, then your mind is always worrying about everything. So instead, as Muslim, Bismillah, I will take this few steps for safety, and while I do them, I'll try to keep my heart on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the one who brings benefit or harm. Nobody can harm me or benefit me but Allah, and nobody has a power to harm me or benefit me without Allah. And in the du'as, the supplication part, we have lots of du'as people are circulating. I'll definitely recommend the Bismillah lazi la yadurru ma'a ismihi shay'un fil ardi wa la fis sama' huwa as-sami'ul alim, the 3 times after Fajr and Maghrib, that nothing will harm that person between Fajr and Maghrib, Maghrib and Fajr. So just kind of relying on that, and even when you're taking safety precaution, not doing it like such a way that you're really getting anxious about it, but just saying that nothing inshallah will harm me but Allah, and I'm just doing it for as a Muslim, I need to be a responsible citizen and just take care of myself and others. So those are the 5 S's me and the girls came up with, and we created some graphics around them, some cartoons. One of our brand ambassadors drew some cartoons around those S's, and I think that kind of helped some people, inshallah, and I hope that's beneficial for everybody that's listening.
So on that note, you guys have started a Instagram campaign, or something to, I think people are sharing positives or blessings that they have in
Yeah,
their life? Can
yeah,
you
yeah.
kind of explain that?
So we started a 21 days challenge, and Sean Aker, at Harvard, and he has done a lot of work around. He was the author of Big Potential, I think, the happiness. Forgetting the name for them, the happiness factor. So multiple books, but the Big Potential is one of his latest one, I think. And Sean Aker has done some studies about happiness, and he found that people that focuses their mind on three things they're grateful for. Just take 2 minutes to write three things that you're grateful for. And if you do that for 21 days, you're able to rewire your brain, the way that you think. And he has done a study where he surveyed people from multiple dozens of countries and workers in the companies that were complaining and not happy and things like that. And all he did was a gratitude practice, and their life satisfaction score and happiness at work and all that increased dramatically. So because what happens is that when our mind finds things to complain about, this is not working, man. Why is this not working? Why are we doing this? How long are you going to be locked in? And all these different things that we are saying, it affects our mental well-being. So instead, if we just kind of shift to say, what am I grateful for this moment? And can I look for the positive in my life? So when you start looking for the positive in your life, you start training yourself. And if you do that long enough, like the Prophet also said that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most beloved actions are small but consistent, right? So to me, this practice is just that. It's a very small practice. It takes only 2 minutes to write down three things you're grateful for, but do it every day for 21 days, and he found dramatic results. So we're doing a 21 days challenge where people can write down three things they're grateful for. And we're telling them according to Robert Emmons' teaching. Robert Emmons is called kind of like the father of gratitude research in this country, UC Davis. And Robert Emmons did a lot of studies around gratitude, and they found that people that wrote down things they're grateful for 10 weeks versus people that wrote about negative things that are happening to their life versus a third group that was writing about whatever was coming up, those people are healthier. They visited the doctor less, they exercised more, they had stronger immunity. So they found a lot of different connection to physical and physiological, psychological well-being and gratitude. So we started a challenge on Instagram where everybody can kind of chime in. Alhamdulillah, we have multiple people writing down three things they're grateful for in the comments or in the live. In the story, they're just kind of sending us different things. And it's just a practice we're doing with our community to focus on. And I would recommend it. I started myself on my journal, and I would recommend everybody to really do this at this time, inshallah.
So inshallah, take us home then in terms of, I think do you have some more guided practices for us, or do you have some more examples of?
Yeah, so I think we can conclude with a gratitude guided practice. That should be hopefully a good practice for people to listen to, inshallah, whenever you kind of want to get into, anytime you're feeling down or anything like that, just kind of listen to of course, people listen to the Quran first and foremost, that nothing brings us more happiness than the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So first going to Quran, our deen, inshallah. And based on our deen, because Allah says, La in shakartum la azidannakum, if we're grateful, Allah will increase our blessing. We feel a sense of expansion. So we just kind of rooted in that Quranic teaching. We'll do a guided practice, inshallah. All right, Bismillah. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. Okay, everyone. For this practice, I would ask everyone to, if you're sitting on a chair like me, just support your lower back, but lengthen your spine. So you have a sense of alertness, as if you're kind of expanding your chest to receive the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, putting your hands on your thighs. You're feeling your feet on the floor, on the ground, lowering your gaze or softening your gaze. You can also close your eyes if that makes you feel more presence in this moment. First and foremost, we will invite you to try to arrive and be here with us for the next few minutes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ, that there are countless blessings in our own body, and there are countless blessings that Allah has put in our own body. Do we see? Do we really see? Do we miss them, or do we really see them, or do we have the heart and the insight to see them? Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah said that thinking about the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best act of worship. So let's begin by taking 3 deep breaths. Bringing gentle awareness to the process of breathing, noticing your in and out breath and the spaces in between. Wherever the breath is most vivid for you. If it is on your chest, or your abs, your nostrils, or your whole body breathing. Using the breath as an anchor, using the breath as a tool for gathering our attention. If our mind wanders, bringing it back. Let's now move our attention to our head. The head hosts the brain, 1 billion neurons. Alhamdulillah. Allah has spoken the truth when He said, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا بِنِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you try to count Allah's blessings, you'd never be able to compute them. Who would have known there are 1 billion neurons, close to 1 billion neurons in our brain? Subhanallah. You can never finish counting the blessings of Allah, even looking just within our own body. Feeling a sense of gratitude and presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our heart as we are breathing in and breathing out. Next, let's take your attention to your face. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has honored us with our face. Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran, Khalaqa al-Insan, Allah has given us intelligent speech. That Allah has given us aql in our brain, and Allah has given us speech that emanates from our mouth. And Allah has honored us with our face, our eyes, our ears, our mouth, the ability to smell, the ability to hear, the ability to talk. So many blessings to be grateful for, bringing a sense of blessing and deep gratitude in your heart. Let's move our attention now to our neck and our shoulders. The shoulders and the neck that carry the head, they host our throat. We eat and we digest through our mouth. Every part of the body has numerous blessings you cannot even imagine and understand fully. Feeling a deep sense of gratitude as we move and shift our attention now to the upper arms and our lower arms, our hands, our fingers. Feeling a sense of gratitude for this part of the body. How would it feel if we didn't have a hand? People that even have a slight cut on their finger, they're not even able to hold just because of one finger. Allah has programmed these bones and these joints and these fingers. Bring your attention to the upper back, the back of our body, then to the middle of our back, and then to our lower back. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed our backs to carry our load, carry a lot of our load. Let's have a deep sense of gratitude for our back. Next, bring your attention to the front of your body, your chest, heart, your lungs. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri. May Allah give us expansion in our heart and our chest. May Allah give us tranquility and courage and protection and peace. And feeling a deep sense of gratitude for all the organs, moving our attention to our abs, our stomach, all our internal organs, how miraculous and wondrous they are by Allah's qudra and creation. Bringing a deep sense of gratitude, alhamdulillah, so many things in our body that are working beautifully by Allah's blessings. فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنَ الْخَالِقِينَ فَتَبَارَكَ اللَّهُ أَحْسَنَ الْخَالِقِينَ. The blessed is Allah, what a beautiful creator is He. Staying with our breath, breathing in, breathing out. Now shifting our attention to our legs and our feet, starting with the right leg, and then the left leg, to our toes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with these beautiful limbs. We're able to stand, we're able to move, we're able to go places, we're able to serve, we're able to worship. Having a deep sense of gratitude for our entire body. Bringing your attention to your entire body, from the top of your head to your feet. Being thankful for your whole body, noticing the breath. 78 to 79 organs, 4 limbs, 640 muscles, 206 bones, 360 joints. SubhanAllah, like the Prophet said that on each of these joints, a sadaqah is mandatory every day. SubhanAllah is a sadaqah. Alhamdulillah is a sadaqah. La ilaha illallah is a sadaqah. Allahu Akbar is a sadaqah. The 85 billion neurons in our brain, to 100 billion neurons in our brain, 40,000 neurons in our heart, about 100 million neurons in our gut, 100 trillion cells in our body. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Feeling a deep sense of thankfulness radiating from our heart, visualizing the gratitude radiating from our heart and expanding to all parts of our body, to all our organs, our limbs, our muscles, our bones, our joints, our neurons, and our cells. وَمَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. We did not value Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with proper value. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِي الشَّكُورِ. Only a few are truly grateful among my servants. May Allah grant us true gratefulness. May Allah count us among those few that are truly grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Bringing our awareness to what it is like to be sitting here right now with each other. Bringing a sense of smile in our face. Presence of Allah in our heart. Bringing your attention back to your breath now. Breathing in and breathing out. Let's just settle the mind there. Just sitting quietly, noticing what it's like to be just sitting here breathing. The deep sense of gratitude. Inviting everyone back. That was my favorite wind chime. And hope this was a good practice, a beneficial practice, inshallah. What did you feel, Imran? How did it feel?
I felt at calm, at peace, in the moment.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm a really, really good meditation guide or not.
You did a great job.
I know that I tried this because, more than who is leading it, if we just kind of get into the essence of what we're trying to do, it really helps. I know that the other day I was feeling down and I was just kind of gathered the family and did this practice with the kids. And alhamdulillah, instantly made us feel better, just kind of the sense of expansion. So I think it's a beautiful thing to just kind of focus on your breath, make dhikr, or just practice gratitude, inshallah. May Allah grant us all of His blessings and continue to increase us in His blessings, inshallah. Protect all of us.
Ameen, ameen. Thank you for this amazing session. I know that we're going to be able to utilize it effectively and efficiently with our students. And at ACC, we do give interest-free loans so students can pursue their higher education. But we have also started incorporating continuing education opportunities, extra learning, professional development, and mentorship. So to that extent, tell us a little bit more about Define 360 and what our students can find through your organization.
Sure. Yeah, so Define 360 is a mindfulness and emotional intelligence learning engine. We have an online course, we call it Character Coach. Become a certified coach, meaning you take 10 weeks of courses with us learning about mindfulness, emotional intelligence, how to lead with mindfulness, emotional intelligence, how to teach, how to coach others, mentor others. So for parents, teachers, leaders, anyone in a leading, coaching, mentoring type of role, learning those skills so that we can improve our own selves, try to have tools for our own self-improvement and then share with others, inshallah. We're also kind of creating an online platform for just learning about mindfulness from an Islamic perspective for Muslims, from both neuroscientific perspective, but also from an Islamic perspective. We're also going to launch a community online, and we're still debating the brand and the name, but soon we're going to be launching a community online with a small subscription every month. Maybe about, we're debating it right now, but maybe about $20 a month. You have access every week to a community online that we will do guided practices like this to support each other, listen to a few people, share messages, positivity to uplift each other. So kind of a tight-knit mindfulness gratitude community that we're trying to build also online, inshallah. We're also traveling to many organizations, schools, communities to train people on practices that can help us increase our mindfulness or gratitude or identity, self-esteem, positive self-talk, managing negative thoughts, managing difficult thoughts and feelings, and increasing our resilience and grit. So we were doing all of those workshops, and we're slowly trying to transition most of them now to the online. And I also want to say that I personally was a recipient of a Continuous Charities program. So I just want to mention that. And alhamdulillah, I'm thankful that I'm able to give back to the community here. I know when I was coming out of grad school, I had put my, I think I had like about $5,000 or so that I was on. It was on hold from my undergrad years, and I didn't want to pay interest. And I was figuring out how do I pay this off. And Omar Osman, one of our brothers here in Dallas, you must know Omar Osman, mashallah, he's a beautiful brother. He introduced me to Athar. And I think they were starting up at that time, and mashallah, the process was seamless, and they took care of it. And alhamdulillah, I paid it off, I think maybe last year, or I forgot which year. It was a 3 years plan, and alhamdulillah, we paid it off. And it was beautiful that you were not able to, you didn't have to struggle to keep paying things off, no interest. And so I really love what SEC is doing, Athar, Abdullah, and all the brothers that are working. And mashallah, now that you are on board activating the community. So may Allah only bless this organization. It's a beautiful organization, inshallah. May Allah bless it, inshallah, and grow it and increase it, inshallah.
Amin. Thank you so much. And then just lastly, 1 minute high-level summary of what we discussed today for our students. If you can summarize in 1 minute the lessons that you imparted on us today.
Okay, bismillah. We talked about how the emotional center of the brain activates. We get into fight, freeze when we keep worrying or having fearful, anxious thoughts. The way to calm ourselves is to kind of breathe and activate the rational part of the brain. Also to make dua or practice mindfulness, getting salah or dhikr. And to increase the communication between the emotional part of the brain and the rational part of the brain, you need to just kind of label your emotions. Say, okay, that's an anxious thought. That thought can pass through. Can you be as big as a sky and let those thoughts pass like a cloud? And if you wait, they will pass through. And just tell yourself, okay, I'm having an anxious thought like everybody else is having. I don't believe in the thought. I believe in Allah and my dua that I made, and I have the best expectation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also talked about the 5 S's: strong iman, supplication, sadaqah, sunnah, and safety. We also talked about the power of gratitude. If you keep looking for positivity in your life and journal 2 minutes, 3 things every day, write about details, not just thing like I'm happy for my family. More than that, just talk about I'm happy to touch my kids or hug my mom or talk about details. And the more details you think about, the more your gratitude is going to increase. So 3 things you're grateful for. 21 days, you can rewire your brain, train your brain, create a new neural pathway in your brain to look for positivity. And we talked about the importance of grounding ourselves with the breath and gratitude practice to focus and get into practices that help us really center ourselves and uplift ourselves. And that could be reading of the Quran first and foremost, and then listening to beautiful lectures. Many of our scholars are sharing those, but also, kind of dhikr and breathing and presence of Allah in your heart, or a guided practice like we did today. And it's recorded, so you can always play it back and listen to it as well, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. May the Most High and the Almighty bless you, your family, your work,
Ameen.
and allow your work to spread, as it's very beneficial and it's leading to more emotionally intelligent people of faith. So we thank you for your service, and people can learn more about what you're doing at is it Define360
Online.
.online, Define360.online.
Yeah.
And please do visit us at acceducate.org to see a little bit on how we're helping the community and how we're helping particularly students. Thank you all for your time, and see you guys on Thursday at 12 o'clock with Sheikh Abdullah Aduro of Yaqeen Institute. Go ahead.
I just one last thing. Join us at Define360 is our handle on Instagram. Join us for the 21 days gratitude challenge and put in your 3 things every day, inshallah.
Awesome. No problem. Thank you. Take care, brother Wadud.
Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum.